And hello and welcome to Aini Living Conversations. This is the 105th session we've had in every week. We have every week. And today we're talking about the sacred geometry part 2. I remember you wanted to talk about that, Ingrid.
Yeah.
And but then you said something else that you were going to talk about, so you probably have something else.
Yeah.
So let me just finish the introduction. This is Sacred Blue Heron Woman from Indianola, and I'm Julian Catari from Jalapa, Veracruz. And we are ready and set to share some wonderful knowledge with you. So I'm ready.
So before we move on, last week we just barely touched into the 8, the octagon. Before we move on into that, let's return to the pentacle of the elements, the 5 elements, the pentacle, because we just came through the equinox and we've taken a trip through the 5 elements before, and now I have it concise as to what the real purpose of working with the elements is. So these phases of creation or evolution. So our lungs and our large intestine are associated with the metal element and the fall season, right? The harvest of autumn. So our lungs extract chi, or God energy, organ energy, Reiki energy from the air. They are central to breathing and obtaining oxygen, which is absolutely vital for all our metabolic functions.
Mm-hmm.
Our lungs create a protective layer of energy called Wei Qi in Chinese between our skin and our muscles, which enables us to resist infections. Our lungs dominate all of our skin functions, and they make our body's skin beautiful and smooth. So if our lungs are compromised, our skin lacks luster and shows signs of aging and disease. Our lungs are associated with the emotions of enthusiasm and willingness to engage with life. So on the flip side, on the opposite extreme of that, then they're associated with grief and excessive dwelling in the past and inability to let go of sadness. So autumn, while we actively while we are actively harvesting in autumn on the farms, it's also the time when our body reaps the benefits or weakness of how it's been treated during the year.
Mm-hmm.
So strong lungs make us less prone to the colds that more frigid weather brings. And so the consequence now of not building up our lungs during autumn, the energy of our lungs, the chi of our lungs, is that it compromises the winter's season of kidney functions. So then this would result in kidney problems such as lack of vitality, not being able to sleep or rest properly, and sexual weakness or dissatisfaction. So ancient Chinese medicine says lungs descend the chi and the kidneys grab it. So if our lung-kidney connection is poor, we can become prone to bouts of asthma and urinary problems during the winter season, during the fall and winter season, and on into spring. So this is the importance of right now, during this time of fall, as we've entered into fall, whether you're living by the equator and don't feel the season change, we're still in this fall season. It's really important to work with the lung energy, to let go of grief and to work through grief and sadness and things like that. So then we move on into the winter, the water element, and the kidneys and bladder, right? So healthy kidneys kickstart the generation and circulation of the energy that moves through all of our other internal organs. Without this kickstart, our internal organs never get into full gear. So our kidneys are responsible for our general vitality, sexuality, childhood development, and the strength of our bones. They're responsible, along with our liver, for correct blood pressure, for the sperm and the ova being healthy. And they help our hair maintain its luster and keep its bright natural color without turning gray before it's time. So unhealthy kidneys sap our general vitality, cause us to gain weight, and severely weaken our body's energy inheritance. And they are associated with being willing and able to patiently engage in life fully with courage and without getting easily bored. Strong kidneys also produce a will that can't be willed, which is an effortless willpower that is the consequence of a naturally strong life force. They are also associated on the flip side with fear, because that's the opposite side. That's the extreme pendulum swing from that natural will that can't be willed. So weak kidneys will result in bouts of depression, where you feel sad or lethargic, minor bouts of depression. Weak kidneys will also produce a pushiness that is reflexive rather than deliberate, and unhealthy over willfulness. So the point is, the winter element, this winter season is this really drawing in, coming into center, coming into sleep, coming into rest energy. So the kidneys of the result of not resting our kidneys fully during the winter, which through excessive work or not sleeping enough, is the diminished capacity of the liver in the following spring. So it sets us up for an entire shitty year, basically.
Wow, this is really important. And I like how you're linking what we saw in the last sessions about the lines, the energy lines, the rivers of energy, and then sacred geometry. And then you're also speaking about the season, which you always normally do. You're always channeling for the time.
Right.
So this is really good.
So if you don't work with your lungs in the fall season, you diminish the ability of your liver to get kickstart in the spring. And so then your next year will never get going properly because your liver will be sluggish.
And how would you work with your lungs? What do you have to do?
There's the acupressure points. Remember when we went through the meridians, I talked about those. That's opening those points. Breathing exercises, breath work is really important. And really tapping into what comes up, sadness or grief, and allowing that to just wash through, and allowing yourself to cry, allowing that to shed.
Okay.
And there's, I'm just on the verge of becoming really, like different maybe Qigong exercises to work with this liver energy to help really activate this lung energy in the fall season. But all right, this just came to me, and this is really important. This is the importance of understanding these 5 celestial forces, this pentacle, and how it affects our life. So then we come to spring after winter, water element, which spring is the wood element. And the liver and gallbladder are associated with the wood element in spring. So a healthy liver allows the smooth flow of qi and fluids through the body, which in turn creates physical strength and stamina. So our liver is responsible for the strength and flexibility of our muscles, our tendons, and our ligaments. In terms of functional strength and power, these tendons and ligaments are as important, if not more important, than our muscles. And because it's our tendons and ligaments, not our muscles, that hold up and prevent our body and prevent it from collapsing under gravity.
Okay.
So this is where we get to the Western philosophy of building muscle, weightlifting, contracting the muscle, building these big, huge muscles, and not paying any attention to the tendons and ligaments, which severely strains them and actually really weakens the bones. Because because it also, those huge built up muscles, no chi can flow through there.
Yeah, and there's actually some videos that here in Mexico of like workers, like construction workers that are not buff, they're just a little stronger, and then they have these big bodybuilders and they try to do the same tasks, and you know, the bodybuilders are so weak.
Yeah. So if qi doesn't qi tends to stagnate in the liver, causing other kinds of qi to stagnate downstream according to the flow of the 5 elements. So the liver is also related to gynecological women's issues, women's sexuality issues, and male sexuality issues. So when the qi of the liver does not flow smoothly, it often results in a repressed anger that leads to a big depression, compressed, imploded body, and high blood pressure. So your liver is associated with perseverance and confidence. Your liver is the source of your ability to bite through obstacles and deal effectively with life's ever-present frustrations. Your liver is your planner. So if your initial plan gets blocked, you can either push through with force or think into it and relax and allow. So our natural ability to adjust is comprised if our liver qi is stagnant. So our liver is also then associated with anger and irritability, and suppressing anger is linked with suppression, and an extremely deficient liver is directly tied to severe clinical depression.
Wow.
So the consequence of not building up your liver energy during the spring is the compromising of the fire element and heart circulation in the summer. This is because the smooth flow of qi is governed by our liver, and qi also moves our blood. This is especially important for men who are more prone than women toward heart and circulatory conditions and testosterone-generated anger. This testosterone-generated anger scorches rather than nourishes the plant during the prime growing season. So if you don't build up that liver, and it makes me feel like, especially here in Southeast Oklahoma, our men haven't been building up their liver. They haven't been working with that. So for the past 2 summers, this summer wasn't so bad, but last summer was really bad of just scorching the plants, just scorching.
Scorching the plants? What do you mean?
Oh yeah, the sun scorched the plants. The heat of the summer scorched.
Okay.
Even though we had 9 inches of rain in July, only 30 days of no rain in August scorched the grass. So the overall health of humans affects the overall health of the planet. So this testosterone generated anger in man, and it's getting there because of the total imbalance.
Yeah, and there's a lot of negative input from the system, from the matrix too.
Well, and with women trying to bring in the divine feminine without balancing, it's causing, because one of the absolute truths of the infinite universe is that however far the pendulum swings over here is however far it's going to swing that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right. So I've seen absolutely what this testosterone generated anger can do to living plants.
Mm-hmm.
So we come to the summer and fire element with the heart and small intestine. Our heart pumps our blood and maintains good circulation. It's responsible for the shine, color, and health of our facial complexion. Our heart is associated with love, joy, happiness. It's our body center of consciousness. It's responsible for the clarity of our mental functions. It generates the spirit, which can be seen in the shine behind our eyes that shows intelligence and awareness. And this enables our mind to be settled and calm. So our heart is associated with sorrow, sadness, hysteria, and morbidity also. So it's responsible for mentally destabilizing people who end up talking incessantly to themselves. That's the weak. So when our Shen, our spirit of consciousness that resides in our heart, is disturbed, we experience anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, and the inability to think clearly. So not building up our heart energy during the summer can then result in spleen, stomach, and pancreas energy being compromised in the shift to the fall.
Wow.
And we're only touching on this earth energy once here, but I bring it in with every shift, with every change of season. But so earth energy is the spleen, stomach, and pancreas, associated with earth element and the seasonal shifts. So a healthy spleen, and we're only going to focus on the spleen tonight. A healthy spleen enables us to extract and build energy and obtain vibrant vitality from the everyday activities that nourish us, such as eating, drinking, breathing, and exercise. Our spleen controls the functions of our muscles. It holds up and keeps our internal organs in their proper places and alignments. It provides the force that keeps our blood in the blood vessels. So an unhealthy spleen can cause our internal organs to fall out of alignment, which results in prolapsed uterus, prolapsed bowels, prolapsed anything inside, right? Would even be hernias, would be that falling out of alignment through the muscles. So through the weakening of the binding force between blood and blood vessels, various problems can occur, such as varicose veins, bruising under the skin, uterine bleeding or spotting, and red spots under the skin. So deficiency of the spleen can also cause candida or yeast, fungus, right? Which lowers energy, causes foggy thinking, weight gain, and depression, constipation, diarrhea, gas, and bloating. So a weak or damaged spleen makes us easy to lack focus, become dissociated, physically devitalized and spaced out, and our mind feels heavy and lethargic. Our spleen is associated with our emotional stability and being grounded, our mental focus and concentration. It enables us to absorb and assimilate information from our environment, either through our natural observation, our intuition, or learned behavior. It's also associated on the other side with worry, anxiety, melancholy, and obsessive behavior. So the consequence of a weakened spleen for the fall season then is that we're deprived of the necessary inner stability to energetically launch the complete yearly cycle for the next year, because the cycle begins in the fall with our lungs. Also, the relevant phase is that the spleen creates phlegm. So allergies. So weak spleen is the allergies, that the constant running, that, right? Okay. So that's the significance of working with the elements and the energies in our body that help keep us healthy. So now let's move on to the octagon.
Okay.
We touched on that briefly. The bagua, the octagon, we touched on it briefly. So it's last week. So it's an 8-sided polygon, a powerful symbol in sacred geometry. It is believed to represent balance, harmony, and transformation. Its symmetry and unique properties make it an intriguing shape to explore. So in nature, we'll find the octagon in various forms, such as the shape of certain crystals, flower petals, and the structure of certain organisms. For example, the octopus is an octagon.
Okay, the octopus is an octagon. Okay. Wow, never thought of that.
So the octagon's mystical significance can also be seen in ancient architecture and sacred symbols or spiritual symbols. In Islamic art and architecture, the octagon is commonly found in the design of mosques, symbolizing the infinite interconnectedness of all things. It also represents the balance of the yin and yang, the masculine and feminine energies, as we see in the bagua. And as the spiral eternally spirals outward, we find that the balance of the masculine and feminine energies is also the way our DNA comes together to form 64 different recipes that guide our life. So the bagua, then the octagon, then translates into the I Ching, the 64 movement. So there's a story from ancient China where in a war, one of the wars of the emperors overthrowing each other, right? One emperor knew that the other emperor's army was coming. So this emperor had a maze of stone pillars built based on the Bagua. And as the soldiers, the oncoming soldiers, entered this maze, the stones moved together and trapped them. That's the power of working with the octagon. It's all based on the flow of the yin and yang, the masculine, feminine. So, and as we've touched in embryology, there's 8 metabolic fields that grow our embryo from the outside in, as the 5 grows us from the inside out. So the octagon would also be associated with our 8 chakras. Even though the 8 chakras are in a straight line, they still, the Bagua, those lines still come to the center, right? And the 8 sirens, which would be the 8 planets that we know so well. So the sirens of the Greek mythology were not known for piercing whales, not veils, whales scream. They're not known for piercing screaming. They're famous for having such beautiful voices that men would give their lives to listen to them for just a moment. Nor were the sirens mermaids. That development came later. The Greeks pictured them as women with bodies of large birds. So they began their story as a trio of naiads or freshwater nymphs. Their father was the god of one of central Greece's largest rivers. And some said their mother was a human woman, but more often than not, they were called the daughters of one of the muses. So a muse mother would explain the sister's gift for music. They were said to have the most beautiful singing voices in the world. And Demeter was so angered when they failed to intervene with her daughter's abduction, which was Persephone, into the underworld, that she cursed them with a monstrous form, which gave them the body of the bird. Right? So they were given wings and banished to an island far off coast. There they would prey on passing sailors, using their beautiful voices, as the myth goes, to lure ships to their doom. I'm going to change that story. Okay. I haven't gotten because these 8 planets that we work with every day are actually the sirens that I was thinking before that they would be the asteroids, but they're not. They're the 8 standard planets of our birth chart, would be the sirens, which they're always luring us to, singing is luring us to crash on the shores of inner God, our inner world. That's, and the story will come for that. But so then as we go further into other mythology and myth and understanding, this correlates, the Bagua, the octagon also correlates with our 8 bodies, which the 8 chakras, the 8 sirens power our 8 bodies with their singing also. So the first of the 8 bodies is our physical body, and the succeeding bodies all consist of progressively more subtle energy that vibrates at, the standard is saying higher and higher frequencies. I'm going to say broader. The broadband becomes bigger. Because if we look at it, so this would be likening it to the 3G versus 4G versus 5G, whereas 3G covers a huge distance. 5G, the broadband is so short, the vibration is so high that you need towers every 20 feet to really, for 5G to optimize. So we don't want to go higher frequency, because the higher frequency we go, the shorter of a time span. So we want to go broader. We want to increase that space. Okay. So we're refining, each body will refine the energy, but it increases the space. It increases the broadband. Would that be the correct terminology? Increases the bandwidth.
If we go broader?
Yeah.
I understand in electronics that you get more, you get the broader distance, you can have broader distance with lesser quality, and if you want higher like quality, then you can have lesser distance and something like that. But I'm not an expert.
Well, but still, I mean, but our lives are right now are so narrow that we only work in this much. Whereas if we open up that broadband, maybe there is lesser quality, but there's more room to play.
No, but I wouldn't even kind of limit to the analogy where
Right.
totally if you are more ample in your perception, in your mind, in everything, and all your existence, and in the amount of things you think you can handle, you can learn about, you can explore, then you become a much better person. I mean, that's.
Well, you become more of a radio station that can tune to more frequencies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you become more colorful. We become more complete.
Yeah. So that's, I'm trying to get away from this constant talk of higher and higher and higher vibration, because
that's such a good thing because everybody's.
The higher vibration goes, the shorter it gets, and the less powerful it is, really.
Yeah, that's it. So much higher vibration people, and they are so narrow-minded and closed off to so many experiences and to so many different tones of voice. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
But that's why I'm saying it increases our broadband or our bandwidth. Put it that way. So each subtle body, while each body, the energy becomes more subtle and refined, it opens up that wavelength more and more. So beginning with the physical body, body one, each successive body occupies the same space as the previous one and extends further outward. So it's larger. So we're talking about the Russian nesting dolls here. I've been talking about our bodies being like Russian nesting dolls for a long time. This brings it more and more. So the consciousness of our physical body really needs to start from the inside of our bone marrow and extend out to 1 inch beyond our skin, which would be our sticky body. And that includes the second body then, which is our chi body that I talked about last week, that sticky one. It vibrates at a little bit more of a open wavelength than our physical body. It's less dense. It fuels our physical body, and it's found only in the living body. The chi body does not stay in the corpse. So our third body is even more subtle. It's our emotional body. It's the shining one that I talked about last week, and it can extend way far out. The ancient Taoists believed that it goes way the hell out into the universe. So we work with this body to liberate the emotions that are stored by removing the energy blocks. And the Taoists call these ghosts or demons. I would call these ghosts or demons the archetypes that control our lives. Come in through the emotional body, our third body. The fourth body is the mental body, and enhances our mind's ability to discriminate between the real and the false. So as someone said to me last summer, I've just come to realize that everything I've learned, I've been taught is false and is all lies. This is the fourth mental body coming into the line. Right? So, but however, if our second and third bodies are not developed, this fourth body won't function fully. So each bigger body, each bigger Russian nesting doll here has a more powerful ability to influence the lower bodies. However, if the lower bodies aren't fully colored in, so to speak, aren't fully developed, that outer body won't have hardly any power. The fifth body is our psychic energy body that allows us to find our hidden internal capacities, among which the perception of the unseen or spirit world, the awareness of energy, or the holy ones in all of matter, and all those clairs we've heard about, like clairaudience, whatever, So once the energy of the emotional and mental bodies, the fourth and fifth body, the third and fourth bodies have developed sufficiently, and our power to discriminate between reality, fantasy, and self-delusion has also developed, there's very little danger in being open to the unseen world. And you hear all these gurus and psychics talk about all the dangerous things out there in the unseen world. They're only dangerous if you haven't developed your third, because those dangerous entities out there are just versions of the archetypes that come in through our third, or those ghosts and demons that are archetypes that come in through our emotional body. So if we don't work with that third and fourth, and we're not adequately prepared, then opening this fifth body or psychic body can really be mentally and emotionally destabilizing. And I saw this. My cousin's daughter, who I first worked with in actually opening my psychic energy body before I was ready, fully ready. But also, this again is not, these are not specific space. I see it as zigzagging, constantly weaving in and out between all of them. But you've got to do foundational work to really color in each body for the next one to open fully. So her brother played with a divination tool way before he was ready, and he became schizophrenic and died at a very young age. So this is the result of trying to open this fifth energy psychic, which would be trying to get to the fifth dimension, as everybody's so focused on, before you develop, before you tune into your physical body. We're so worried about getting to the fifth dimension that most of us aren't even living in our physical body. We don't even know what that physical body truly feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So as I've just now started Tai Chi, in addition to my Kung Fu training, I can finally, when I'm standing in the power stance of Qigong and Tai Chi, I can finally actually feel the space of my arch, the space in my arch, the arch of my foot between that, the arch of my foot and the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't even know we have an arch.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the importance of this. And once again, I mean, these are like tree rings of the tree. And the simple reality is, for the last 7 years that I've been here in Oklahoma doing this work, I have worked on these unknowingly, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. And last summer, I delved into the sixth. And you heard me start saying last summer, I feel like I've put on a whole new body, a whole new Russian nesting doll. That was, I finally opened up that sixth body, which is the causal body. But it's still not been, I'm not living just in my causal body. It's still, we've all seen these advertisements on or videos on YouTube of artists pouring paint in, and then just in like a form or picture, right? And then swirling the paint, and it comes out to be this amazing, beautiful picture. This is, to me, what these bodies are like, because you're constantly weaving in and out. But you got to do foundation work to build these bodies. You can't hack them.
Right.
To build these bodies, because the more you build each successive body, you're still going to come in and out of them and work with each one of these bodies. There's never a completion point to any of these bodies, but your painting is going to become bigger and more beautiful and more expanded. But if you try to hack it and get out here to the sixth body without your second body, your chi body, being open and fully grounded and fully worked with, you might touch it once or twice, but right.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so the sixth body is the causal body that's related to time and space. And at this subtle vibratory frequency exist the energies that cause events to manifest in the physical world in time and space. So a reasonably stable center of stillness is essential to work with this level of energy. And this is the body that we work with in using divination tools.
Mm-hmm.
So a balance of sitting and moving practices to make sure that our physical body doesn't get blown out by the enormous amount of energy that comes through the causal body are really necessary. And most of us don't. So that's the other thing that happened with my cousin's son, is his body got blown out by this. He played with a Ouija board, I think it was. His psychic body, he wasn't ready, none of this, right? So it literally blew his body out.
Wow. Okay. So now people know that what all of this is about. This is so useful and such a hard to find piece of information.
So the Taoists say that someone who masters the sixth body, this level of practice, which would be the Magus, the one who orchestrates with creation, can actually achieve physical immortality, but not necessarily spiritual immortality, which is the complete union with the Tao. So the next one is the cultivation of the seventh body, or the body of individuality, that entails the actual birth of the full spiritual being.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, each one of us are what the I Ching calls the inferior person, with the word inferior not containing a judgmental quality. It instead refers to the degree of spiritual development or energy, God force development. So when you become one with your seventh body, the energy of your ego first reaches its full potential, which it has to, because our ego is the one that guides us to our fullest potential. As long as we realize it's not about us, it's not about Ingrid the person. This is where I've finally come to realize, as I was writing this, that I am now working with my seventh body, my individuality body, that will bring this manifestation of adult cohabitation to Jesus, to being. And then my ego must dissolve.
Right.
Becoming enlightened or self-realized or self-possessed. This is the superior person of the I Ching. The mind of the superior person listens to and follows the mind of the Tao, yet is not one with the Tao, because they are one with themselves and one with Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also, it's not about their ego. It's not about, look at me and look at how many followers I have. It's about just being an adept, being a master, and always learning more.
Mm-hmm.
So the eighth body is the body of the Tao. This entails the joining of the human consciousness to the whole, the utter complete unity with the Tao. And they are called the guardians of the world. I would also call them the ascendant masters that we hear people talk about in meditation. And Dr. Rioldo has talked about the Laika, the Incans, talking about how one of these days we'll achieve this rainbow body and be able to switch back and forth. I think they're talking about this eighth body of where we can just blitz out into pure light and then come back into physical form without having to be born and go through birth.
Okay.
So that's the 8, and we're not going to spiral out into the 13 yet because I need more time to develop.
No, quite a lot already.
So for the last few minutes, let's start with the agreements, the 5 agreements of
Yeah.
of Aloha, Aini Tao living.
That's true.
So the 5 agreements are: 1, be impeccable with your word. 2, don't take anything personally. 3, don't make assumptions. 4, always do your best. And 5, be skeptical while learning to listen. And I think number 2 is the hardest. Don't take anything personally is probably the hardest.
Right, and there's a lot of depth to that. Yep. How do you, I mean, it's easy to say, but how do you accomplish that?
Very easy to say. Very easy to say.
Yeah.
So once upon a time, there was a human who lived near a city that was surrounded by mountains. The human was studying to become a craftswoman in the ancient wisdom of wellness. However, she didn't agree with everything she was learning. In her heart, she felt there must be something more. So one day, as she was asleep in her bed, she dreamed that she saw her own body sleeping. The sky was clear and she could see millions of stars. Then something happened inside of her that transformed her life forever. She was able to look at her hands and feel her body and heard her own voice say, I am made of light pulsations. I am made of stars. She looked at the stars again and realized that it's not the stars that create the light. It's the light that creates the stars. She said to herself, wow, everything is made of light pulsations and the space in between them isn't empty. So now that she knew that everything that exists is one living being, and the light pulsations are the messengers of life because they are alive and contain all information. Then she realized that though she was made of stars, she was not the stars. So she said to herself, I'm in between the stars. So she called the stars the tonal, and the light between the stars the nawal. And she knew that what created harmony and space between the two is life or intent. Without life, the tonal and the nawal could not exist. Life is the force of the absolute, the supreme. And what she discovered was that everything in existence is a manifestation of the one vast living field we call God, which would be the nawal. Nawal, in a way. The nawal is like the Tao. It has many, many, many different. I think it's that which cannot really be known, right? Well, but we'll get it. We're not going to talk about the tonal and the nawal tonight.
No, okay.
So everything and everyone is God or the Nawal or the Tao or whatever, right? She came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. She also saw that matter is a mirror that reflects light and creates images of that light, and that our overculture world of mechanical illusion is like smoke, which doesn't allow us to see who we really are. The real us is pure love and pure light, she said. So this realization changed her life, and she now knew who she was and what she really was. So she looked around at all the rest of nature, and she was amazed at what she saw. She saw herself in everything, in every human, every animal, every tree, in the water, the rain, the clouds, and the earth. And she saw that life or intent mixed the tonal and the nawal in different ways to create billions of manifestations of life. In those few moments, she comprehended everything, and she was very excited, and her heart was filled with joy and peace and passion. She could hardly wait to tell the people what she had discovered, but there were just words that were inadequate. So she attempted to tell others, but they couldn't understand. They could see that something in her had changed, that something beautiful was radiating from her eyes and her voice. She could understand everyone very well, but no one could understand her. They believed that she was an incarnation of God, and she smiled and said, yes, it's true. I am God, and you are also. We are the same, you and I. We are all images of light. We are God. But still, no one could understand. So she also discovered that she was a mirror for the rest of the people, a mirror in which she could see herself. So everyone is a mirror, she said, as she saw herself in everyone, yet no one saw her as themselves. And she realized that everyone was dreaming without awareness, without knowing what they really were. They couldn't see her as themselves because there was a wall of fog or smoke between the mirrors, and that wall of fog was made by the interpretation of images of light, the dream of humans. Then she knew that pretty soon she would forget all she had learned in this moment, and she wanted to remember all the visions she'd had. So she decided to call herself the smoky mirror, so that she would always know that matter is a mirror, and the smoke in between is what keeps us from knowing who and what we really are. So in the beginning, it's all a program. It's all in the program. From the moment you are born, you deliver a message to the world. And what is the message? The message is you. the presence of the infinite, the old ones, the holy ones in human body, God, if you want to call it that. The infinite total power creates a program for you, and everything you need to be what you are is in the program. It's just like the acorn has the program of the oak tree. You are born, you grow up, you mate, you grow old, and in the end, you return to the infinite. Every cell in your body is a universe of its own. It's intelligent, it's complete, and it's programmed to be whatever it is, whether it's a liver cell, a bone cell, or a brain cell, or a muscle cell, and so on. You are programmed to be you, whatever you are. And it makes no difference to the program what your mind thinks that you are. The program is not in your thinking mind, it's in your body, in your DNA. So in the beginning, you instinctively follow its wisdom, and your instincts guide you to be happy, to enjoy, to play, to love, to fulfill your needs. And then what happens? Your body begins to develop, your mind begins to mature, and you begin to use symbols to deliver your message. And we humans have invented all kinds of symbols to communicate, not only with other humans, but with ourselves also. The symbols are the sounds that we speak, the motions that we make, or the handwriting and the signs that are graphic in nature. The alphabet, the numbers, all of it is symbols. The introduction of sounds is one of the very first steps. So we learn to use symbols to speak. And the humans that came before us already have names for everything that exists, and they teach us the meaning of sounds. They call this a table, and that a chair, and this a desk, and that a computer, and this a couch, and that a bed, and that a cat, and that a dog, and that a horse, and or a caballo, and that a vaca, and that a borrego, right? So there's this symbol that exists of everything that exists only in our imagination. So every word that we learn is a symbol for something real or imagined, and there are thousands of words to learn. And this, I think, is the most important thing. These symbols are just in our imagination. A cat's not really a cat. It's just a form of light. Mm-hmm. We named it a cat. We can name it a bear if we want. Mm-hmm. That's mind-blowing itself. So once we learn to speak, the humans that take care of us teach us what they know, which means they program us with knowledge. So the humans we live with after our birth, the ones we call family, have lots of knowledge, including all the social, religious, and moral rules of their culture. They hook our attention, and they pass on the information and teach us to be like them. You learned how to become a man or a woman according to the society in which you were born. You learned how to behave the right way in your society, which meant being a good human. Mm-hmm. So in truth, we're all domesticated the same way that we domesticate a dog, a cat, or any other animal, through a system of reward and punishment. Out of a fear of being punished and fear of not getting a reward, we start trying to please other people. And I think that's where we'll stop. Okay. One more. In our human domestication, all the rules and values of our family and society were imposed on us, and we did not have the opportunity to choose our beliefs. This is the most important part. Mm-hmm. We have to realize that in our domestication, all our beliefs that we hold so dear and think are ours were imposed on us, and we were never given the opportunity to choose. We were told what to believe and what not to believe. The people we lived with, our human family, told us their opinions, what is good, bad, beautiful, ugly, right, and wrong. And just like a computer, all that was downloaded into our brain.
Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to swallow.
It is. That's a big thing to swallow.
But an important thing. So is that all you have for tonight?
That's where we'll stop for tonight, because the time agreement is huge.
I want to mention all the people. So I've been monitoring the transmission. So we have persons in Rumble watch most of the time, and now we have 7 watching. So I want to say a good hello to whoever's watching.
Very cool.
Now down to 5, and then on Facebook and YouTube we didn't have anyone, but the fact that I opened the program and had me as a watcher helped this show in the feed of someone. So somebody gave a like on YouTube.
Cool.
So I just want to say hello to everyone and hope that you'll join us. And if you want to watch the whole show, it stays recorded in all the platforms. So that's why I've been looking to the side as well, because I'm monitoring the live feed. So the invitation is to the next session. Do you know what we'll talk about?
We're going to continue with the 5 agreements.
Okay, 5 agreements. And so this is all about Toltec wisdom, about native wisdom, ancestral wisdom, shamanic wisdom, wisdom of living in nature, the wisdom of living in Tao and wellness, the wisdom of reciprocity, and we are Aloha in Tao living. We are an invitation for you to come live outside of the system. Everybody says, I want to get out of, or not everybody, but a lot of people say, I want to get out of the system. And so this is getting out of the system. This is a way to get out of the system. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to swallow. There's a lot to learn because you have to do all the work. Like those are your words. You have to do all the work because big part of the system, as you said, is downloaded in our heads, in our minds.
That's the biggest part of the system. Yeah.
If we don't get it out, if we don't, we're gonna be this. No matter where we go and how free we think we are, we're not gonna be really free.
No. And it's not something we can hack and be done with, because this has been programmed into us for generations. So it's a lifelong process of continually finding what hooks our attention and draws us out and into the mechanistic, linear, mindless, monetized way, militant way of being.
Right. So it's and remember that as well as the exciting, fun part is the journey, and
because it's all about the journey and watching how your life evolves.
And once you decide to step out of victimhood and into the journey of recovering your intellect, then everything becomes really fun and exciting. And no matter how many problems there still are and how bad some of the situations in the world get, everything just becomes so much better and you start seeing the freedom, and the path of freedom comes to you. It opens up. It shows the solutions, because a lot of people get stuck in, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? I can't imagine how to do it. All you have to do is decide to do it. That's the first step. If you don't take that first step, then you're not going to be able to imagine how to do it. You have to decide first.
Right. You have to be willing to make the choice and step out.
Right.
Right. Without a safety net.
Right. There you can just jump.
Right.
Cool. So next week,
say we've got to get our finances in order first. We have to have this X amount of dollars, and then we do the same thing with having babies, right? We get married. Oh, we have to be financially stable before we can have a baby. Well, the baby making doesn't coincide with that, right? The baby shows up when the baby shows up.
Exactly.
So, same with this.
Alrighty, so we'll invite folks for next week at 8 o'clock. We'll continue this conversation as we do every week. And if you want to check out website or anything, alohainidaliving.com. And we send a lot of, I like the expression, waterfalls of blessings for everyone.
Yes, I do. I like that. So, and as we delve into these 5 agreements, it will give me time to work on the sacred geometry of the wheel with 13 spokes. Okay. Or the teepee with 13 poles.
Part 3 then. Wow, that's so cool. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll say goodbye and see you next week. Cut the live stream.